Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Wow, Simon, it's been a while since we've been on the air together, but I am excited to be back, and the first of our summer series has officially started,
Yeah,
Simon.
I'd almost say it's been too long, but there's been some awesome things going on in your personal life.
That's true.
It hasn't been too long. So
yeah,
congratulations
exactly.
on
Thank you
being
very
married.
Much. I appreciate it. It's an exciting time. I've made it through 2.5 weeks so far, so I'm not scared. I'm pushing through so far.
Good,
so.
good.
It's an exciting time, but I'm excited to have that experience and to join your ranks as a married man now. So I'm sure if my wife has anything to say about it, kids will be following soon. So we'll see. We'll see with that. But we're excited to be back. Our second or third episode now here on Sports Radio America. So we're very excited to have that partnership and be able to do that now. While we are here over the summer, we will be on Sports Radio America on Fridays from 3 to 6 Eastern. You can catch our show live usually on Thursdays, more than likely is what it'll probably be. Thursday nights, probably, depending on scheduling with all that. But you can also hear us on TuneIn and Live 365, and then you can hear us on demand anytime on Spreaker.com and on iTunes. Simon, where can they find us on social media?
As always, we are on Facebook at Two Up Front. And on Twitter as well, at Two Up Front Soccer.
Yes, indeed. Well, Simon, we had your brother on last time for our hometown spotlight, and now we are going to one of your own.
Yes.
Your daughter. Your daughter, Bethany, is here today, and she's going to be chatting with you a little bit about soccer in America and her illustrious playing career.
That's right.
I will turn my headset over to your daughter and let you guys take over.
All right. So we have Bethany here. So we're looking at soccer through the perspective of an 8-year-old. Bethany, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You look really cute today, by the way. So, Bethany, how long have you been playing soccer for?
4 years.
And you're 8, so you've been playing since you were 4 years old, right?
Yes.
What club do you play for?
Strike FC.
Strike FC. They're out in the Kettle Moraine area out in Wisconsin, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we call it the Hometown Spotlight because we are based in Milwaukee or around Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Bethany Provan is our Hometown Spotlight today. So, Bethany, you like soccer?
Yes.
Yeah?
Very much.
Yeah, what do you like about it?
That's a really hard question because I like a lot of things about
Oh,
it.
you do, huh? What's one or two of your favorite things about it?
Still a hard question.
Got a lot of things that you like about it, huh?
Yes.
Can you just start throwing some stuff out there?
It's very hard for girls to play soccer because most boys don't think that girls can be as strong, but it's very easy for girls if you just step up and try to show that you can be as strong as boys can be.
Wow. We did not rehearse this, by the way. That was a pretty cool statement to make, especially from an 8-year-old as well. So you play on a team that has both boys and girls, and you play against boys and
Yes.
girls. Sometimes you play against teams that are very similar in the way that we play, right? Because I coach the team as well,
Yes.
along with my cohort Ryan Cooper and Megan Ward, my cohorts. So sometimes we play teams that are very much the same as ours. Sometimes we play teams that aren't as good as we are, but then other times we play teams that are better than we are, right?
Yes.
So let's say you play a team that is a little bit better and maybe you lose the day. How does that make you feel?
I don't really care about winning, but when it comes to I just like to have fun, but I want to score some goals and I want to win, but if we lose, it's not a big deal to me. But if it's like a humongous thing or something, I would like to win, but still I don't really care.
Don't really care, right? Right now it's just all about having fun, right?
Yes.
Playing the game. Now, even at practice, though, we work on skills sometimes, right?
Yes.
What's some of your favorite moves that you like to make?
I like the new step over where you pretend you're going to kick the ball, but that's one of my favorite. And then using your body to protect the ball from you.
Yeah. You especially like doing that against the boys, right?
Yes.
We've talked about that. Yeah, sometimes when you're having a bad game, what's one of those things that'll help you flip the switch and make you go, okay, I'm going to play good now?
Well, when someone knocks me over, I get a little bit mad. So then I I get a little over words, but it's kind of hard not having a rep there when you keep on getting stuff happen to you. But sometimes kids think it was a trip, but it really wasn't a trip. So.
Yeah, and we just got to play on, right? Yeah, we got to learn to keep our cool and everything like that. Awesome. So next year you're going to be playing
U9.
U9. This year you played in a U9 game, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How was that, playing a 1 year up for one game?
That was fun. I just will have to get used to just playing with girls now. But it's good that I have some uncles, but one that put a soccer ball, punted into my face on accident.
But you scored a goal, right?
Yeah.
And how did you score that goal? Do you remember?
I played on. I cried some bit, but then I took a little break and I played on, and that's what you should do if you're in a real soccer game.
Yeah, but you took a shot and the goalie saved it, right?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I followed the shot and I scored.
Yeah, that's one of the things we like to work on is following those shots, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is your favorite position to play?
A lot of people say I'm very good at defense, and that's starting to be my favorite one. I really like striker and defense. Defense, you protect the goal, and defense, you can like have a little break, like you can kind of rest back there. But then right away when the ball comes to you, you have to go right up to them instead of going back into the goal. And striker, you most people think that you can go all around the field, but you really just have to stay in the middle. So then when that person passes you the ball, you have to be very, very, very fast to score that goal.
Yes, you do. That's very good. Is there anything else you want to tell people about soccer from the eyes of an 8-year-old?
I just want to point out that really, you might think it's easy playing with the person that you are playing with. Like, if you're going to go up to a U9, you might think it's going to be really, really, really hard, or maybe for you to step up, which I'm going to do that, but it's going to be kind of easy and kind of hard because I like my team, and a lot of that comes from Cushing, but even the kids that aren't from Cushing.
And Cushing's the school you go to.
Yes, okay. And that team that I will be splitting apart with, I'm just going to wish the boys luck for them, and I'm going to wish our team luck.
Well, that's very sweet of you. Is there any things you want to ask Baxter?
Your favorite player?
I have one in the U8s. I don't know a lot of players in like the World Cups and stuff, but Monica, I'm just going to go with Daddy wants me to say.
I don't.
Yes,
you don't have to say anything.
Sometimes he tells me what to say for the favorite person.
I don't recall these conversations.
Well, you're wearing an Alex Morgan jersey, though, so
yeah,
I would assume at least that might be a favorite player or someone you admire at least.
I really don't know this person.
We'll do some more watching, right?
No,
okay.
thank you.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah. Hey, my other daughter here is as well, Grace. Grace, why don't you hop on over? Bethany, great job. Give me a high five. High five.
Okay.
All right, so Grace, when we were talking about being on the show, we weren't talking about having you on, and then you said, I could come on and talk about what it's like to be a non-soccer player in a soccer-playing family, right? And I thought, you know what, that's a cool perspective. We only charge you a little bit in rent since you don't play soccer. Just kidding. So what's it like to be, you do your own stuff as well, right? You're very good at softball.
Yeah.
You love doing your swimming. You love doing horseback riding. So you have your stuff that you do. Obviously plays at school as well.
Yeah.
But what's it like to be the non-soccer player in the soccer family?
It's different because everybody's talking about the women's game last night at 7, and I was at my cousin's house, and he was just like, I'm going to miss the game. And I'm just like, the Brewers game isn't on till 6. And he he was talking about the women's game, and I was just like, oops.
But you come and watch Bethany's games once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of whiles.
I just don't get what's going on.
You don't get what's going on. Yeah. So I know the one thing you wanted to talk about, though, was what it's like to be around our house during, especially the men's World Cups, right?
Yes.
So go ahead and describe what it's like to be in a crazy soccer household.
During the during the men's World Cup, I like to stay in my room because my dad gets a bit crazy.
That's very true.
He yells at the TV a lot.
It's supposed to be a black card. It's supposed to be a red card.
And what happens when the U.S. scores?
Go!
All right, but we still play in the backyard once in a while, and you like playing the game then, right?
Kind of.
Kind of?
Kind of, yeah. Just don't like playing it competitively.
Yeah. All right.
So.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for being on, Grace and Bethany. You guys were fantastic. Grace, this was a bit impromptu, so.
Yeah. All right.
My goodness. Well, wow, what a special treat. See, this is why I need to hurry up and have kids so I can have them come on the show, Simon. That was probably the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. So a big thank you to your daughters, Bethany and Grace, for coming on the show.
Yeah,
so
thanks, guys.
we're just working our way through your family. We got to get your wife on. We got to get your
That's
other
right.
brothers on. Anybody else? Mom, dad, uncles,
Yeah.
aunts? Might
Yeah,
as well
sure.
keep it going. Keep it inside the family. I love it. Well, fantastic. Well, any other final thoughts about that, Simon, before we jump into our 50-50?
You know, the last thing, I'll just say that being a coach of a youth soccer team, I've coached Bethany for 4 years, so I've done, a couple of years with rec. Now we're in the academy teams. Next year will be another year in the academies. It's so important. There's times where we've come up against coaches that I got to say I'm shaking my head at. There was one coach who screaming at the kids, "This isn't what we worked on." He literally, I thought I was watching Bobby Knight. He took his clipboard, slammed it on the ground.
This is what, U8s?
U8s.
Wow.
And, that is, for any youth coaches out there,
Yeah.
that is not what the game is about at 8
Not
years
at all,
old. It
no.
really is, most importantly, about them having fun.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with teaching them skills. There's nothing wrong with even working on those during a game. At this point, it really isn't about wins or losses. Frankly, I don't even think the coaches should be keeping score.
That's very true.
What you're keeping an eye on is the development of the kids. Mm-hmm. Are they having fun? Are they developing those skills within that boundaries of fun? It doesn't mean we just go out there and say play.
Yeah.
We're still going to coach them. But it is so important to keep the spirit of the game in the game. We're coming into this age where it's more and more about development, but we can't lose the fact that these kids, what they care about is having fun
Exactly.
right now.
And if you have a coach like that in a U8 level that's throwing a clipboard, that's yelling, possibly saying other things that shouldn't be said at that age, you're going to deter the future of potential U.S. soccer players, or even around the world. You don't know. Because if
Right.
they say, well, I enjoyed soccer as a kid, but I had that one coach that really kind of turned me off from soccer. And I've met many people over the years that I would play with them and they're fantastic. I'm like, why don't you play for a team? I don't like the coaches I've had in the past because they did this, they said that, they treated me poorly. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I can see that, because that's always a big issue for me too, is if I can't get along with the coach, that's a hard thing for me to want to go out and want to play, regardless of how much I love the game, which, as you know, we both love the game a
Right.
lot. But if I can't respect the coach or the coach can't do what's best for the players, it's really hard to want to step on that field and want to win for the coach and for the team.
Right, and it doesn't mean you don't have discipline at these ages.
Exactly.
We make sure these kids are listening to us. If they're not, you know what? Go and do a lap.
Yeah.
Do 10 push-ups.
Exactly. There's a
it's fun.
certain line, though.
Right, exactly. There is a certain line. And the discipline comes into behavior, not if the kids are not playing well.
Yeah.
If they're not playing well at this age, it's probably because they're tired.
Exactly.
It's not
They're like,
because-
we've been running for 10 minutes or
Right.
15 minutes. I'd like to take a break for a minute, please.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I most certainly have my moments where I have to
Sure.
catch myself. And
Apparently when you're watching the Men's World Cup games, you're yelling at the refs. But as long as you don't rip up their book. All right, well, we're going to move into our 50-50 segment. Now, the way that our 50-50 segment works is that Simon and I will take a topic that's hot in the soccer world right now, and we will, one of us will take one side, one of us will take the other. Simon, with the Women's World Cup in full swing right now, I feel like it's only fair that the question that will be posed for our segment today is Do you feel that this U.S. Women's World Cup team is going to win the World Cup? So, would you like to start, or would you like me to?
You know what? You can go ahead and start.
Okay.
And then I'll follow you.
Sounds like a plan. So with 45 seconds on the clock, I shall go first. All right, ready?
We are all set. Whistle blows right now.
All right, well, to be completely honest, you can't help but think that this Women's World Cup team is going to win, because not only did they survive the group of death, they beat teams in their group that gave them the absolute test. Yes, Nigeria is ranked outside of the top 25 in the world. Yes, they 0-0 drew against Sweden, but the fact that they were able to go and beat a team like Australia as well, that was able to prove that the offense can come from multiple different places. Look at the back five, including Hope Solo back there. Ali Krieger, that defense is lights out, amazing right now. The one goal that's been scored against the United States so far was off of just a lucky shot that I don't even think any goalie in the world would have been able to stop. So this U.S. team, they've got the forwards, they've got the defense, they have all the right pieces to take it to the next round.
And boom, 45 seconds. Nice.
All right.
So 45 seconds for me then.
On your mark, get set, and go.
Right now, of course, they can always come and surprise us, but, you usually save the type of play that the U.S. is playing right now for the later stages of the tournament. And they've been playing a game right now that is way too cautious. Yes, they're arguably in the group of death, but you're looking at some of these other teams that are playing really well. Canada's playing well. Norway's playing well. Of course, you got your Germanys. But they need more players to step up right now. They got some strong players in the back. We've talked about a couple of their really strong marking backs back there. But then we also have some other players that are playing really weak. What I'm concerned about is the lack of goals. Abby finally got one for herself, but this team needs to bust it open. I want to see the U.S. play like they used to.
All right, time is up. Well, that's a good segue for us, too, as we go to our first break. Because when we come back, we will have our MLS and U.S. soccer fanatic Sonia Kondratenko will call in and join us and chat about the Women's World Cup, and we'll get her thoughts about the Women's World Cup. And I've got a few other things I want to talk about the women's team as well. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up, so don't go anywhere. This is Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, we get to bring in one of our good friends, Sonia Kondratenko, to chat about the women's national team. Sonia, how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Oh, not too bad. A little surprised by the result of the women's game last night. Yes, it was a win. Yes, they won the group of death, but the fact that they only scored one goal against a Nigeria team that was obviously outside of their element, a little disappointed about that, at least from me. I don't know if you share that sentiment, Simon and Sonia.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the consensus, that the U.S. definitely missed some chances converting set pieces last night.
Yeah.
And that is where Nigeria struggles, at least in this tournament.
Well, we saw Sweden completely use that to their advantage. That's how they were able to score. I believe 2 out of their 3 goals were off of set pieces in that first half of that opening game for them. It begs a lot of questions about the U.S. national team. I'm not really concerned about the defense, Simon. We were talking about that in our last segment briefly, that Ali Krieger, Julie Johnston, Becky Sauerberg, and Megan Klingenberg have been arguably the best defense at the tournament so far. And Hope Solo, I don't really feel like there's any real question of whether or not she's the best goalie in the world right now, because she's playing like it.
She's playing lights out. And as you said, the defensive backs, man, not concerned at all about the defense.
No.
And I'm a big fan of defense. We've talked about this in
Yep.
earlier shows, and a win is a win. But to me, I don't know if you agree with this, Sonia, but there's something different about a World Cup. It isn't a 32-game season where you can hold on to that defense and sneak those goals. And there comes a point, especially in these knockout games, where you got to start scoring those goals.
Right, yeah. The talent is there, but I think it's more about finding the rhythm.
Yes, yep, I would agree with that. And there's one player that really just seems like she can't find her rhythm, and for me, that's Carly Lloyd. I've watched all 3 of these games so far for the U.S. and even some of the games leading up, and I forget almost 9 times out of 10 that Carly Lloyd is on the field because she has not made herself that burning presence in that center midfield like we know her to be, where she's fired off goals from 25, 30 yards plus. She's been a dynamic playmaker in the middle, spreading the ball around. But so far in this tournament, she's barely touched the ball each game. When she does have the ball, she's not very smart with her moves on it. But at the same time, you can't really sit her if you're Jill Ellis because she's one of the best midfielders in the world right now.
Right, yeah.
It's really confusing, I guess. Do you feel like Carly Lloyd is not living up to expectation right now?
I agree with you.
Now, the midfield as a whole, I feel like for the United States, Simon, Megan Rapinoe is obviously playing some of the best soccer we've ever seen. Is it safe to say that she's the best player at the World Cup right now?
Boy, I think it's fair to say at least she's up there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's one of the breakout stars. Not that she wasn't a star before this, but in the context of the Cup, yeah, she's one of the breakout stars. But I want to go off of your point about Carly Lloyd. Lauren Holiday is playing midfielder with her. Those two, and this goes back to your point, Sonia, just don't seem to have a fluidness about them. They're getting confused on who should go back and play defensively, who should cover back there. They get confused when they're moving up front, who should be going out wide, who should be staying in the middle. They just don't seem to be gelling at all.
Yeah, and I think there's just been a lot of confusion. And even when they put out some of the other players, a lot of and Sonia, you and I were talking about this earlier in the week with putting some of the forwards at right midfield. And I'm a little confused by that because when you have players like Tobin Heath on your roster, do you really need to throw Alex Morgan or Sydney Leroux or Kristen Press as a right midfielder?
Right, yeah, and Alex didn't get to start yesterday, and she played the first 65 minutes.
I was a little surprised by that, but she looked good.
She did look good.
Her first start in 2 months, also.
Mm-hmm. And that was the first ever official World Cup game that she started. She's come on as a sub, which boggles my mind. But I thinking back to 2011, she was just becoming relevant at that point. So I guess I kind of forget how young she actually is. So, Sonia, now that the group stage for the U.S. is over, what are some of your takeaways as a whole about the team, and then looking ahead for the remainder of the tournament for them?
Oh man! Well, they finished top of the group, so they're looking to go into the round of 16. Maybe have a slightly easier opponent, and the travel schedule is going to be a little easier. They avoided a game against Brazil by finishing first.
Trying to avoid that as long as possible.
They might not see a stronger team until if we keep advancing until later into the tournament, which maybe we can use to our advantage.
Well, FIFA set that up on purpose.
For a Brazil-USA final, you're saying? Or
no,
what?
they set it up on purpose that Canada and the U.S. would have the easiest, if they finish both first in their groups, that they would have the easiest run to the semifinals.
Oh.
That's no joke. But, of course, it's FIFA. So
thanks, FIFA. That's a whole other topic with FIFA. And we talked about this a little bit, too, earlier in the week, Sonia, about Canada. I was able to catch a majority of the Canada-Netherlands game, and I was not thrilled at all by how poor Canada played. I just feel like they won their group. They got 5 points, which is great and all. But if you're the host nation, if you are one of the top teams in the world and you are struggling against teams like China, the Netherlands, and New Zealand, not anything against those 3 teams, but realistically, when you think of a top contender in the world, you don't really think of the Netherlands or New Zealand. China's up there, but Canada as a whole, you've got Christine Sinclair, you've got all of these, moving parts that are really dangerous. I'm a little concerned about if Canada has the firepower to get past even maybe the first round of knockout play.
Yeah, they're going to play Switzerland, I think, too.
But Switzerland's been. Well, they've been playing well, but they lost to Cameroon, did they not?
Yes. Switzerland
Yeah.
finished third in Group C with 3 points. Cameroon got 6. Japan got 9. And if there's been one team that people haven't been talking about a lot, it is Japan. You know, you look at the Men's World Cup, and they're always talking about, oh, this was last time's winner. This was last time's winner. There's not, at least for everything that I've seen, Japan hasn't been getting a lot of press in terms of, well, hey, they're the defending world champions. They blew through their group. They had all 3 wins. They scored 4 goals. They only allowed 1. Why isn't anybody really talking about Japan, Simon?
Because it's a team from Asia, I think is as simple as that. People still don't believe
Yeah, I was
that.
going to say that.
Yeah, go ahead, Sonia. You can pick that up if you want.
No, you can go. That was my first thought, because, I mean, so many of my friends or the circles that I'm involved in, at least on social media, very much European focused if they're not concentrating on America.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, that makes perfect sense.
Radar.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because looking around at even some of the other Hispanic teams that are doing well, like Colombia, they're at the top of Group F right now, and they're ahead of teams like England, France, and Mexico. If this was the Men's World Cup, that would be an insane group right there just within itself. Mm-hmm. Mexico have never won a game at the Women's World Cup, which is mind-boggling to me.
It's not to me.
It's not?
Because they're so focused on the men's game in that country.
Okay.
But
I feel like the women's game, they realize that it's a little bit more open. I feel like they would put more effort into that.
That's
how I would approach
right,
it, at
right.
least.
That makes sense. But, even Mexico came close to beating the U.S. once, and that was almost icing on the cake for them of everything they've done. But they traditionally have never been a strong team, even in CONCACAF.
Fair enough. Well, Sonia, looking at teams like Germany, obviously their stats are a little diluted because of that 10-goal game that they had against Ivory Coast. They finished their group with 7 points, 2-1-0. Didn't lose at all, only allowed 1 goal. Germany seems to be the biggest threat in terms of someone that's going to challenge the U.S. and maybe Brazil. Do you think Germany is... I know their group was not as tough as I think a lot of people were hoping it would be, but that's what happens when you throw a new team like Thailand in, and even Ivory Coast as well. Norway and Germany kind of had their way with the group. Germany still a pretty clear favorite to get to at least the semifinals. If we had to pick a Final Four right now, would Germany be in that Final Four?
I do think so, yeah.
Okay. Who do you think would be in your Final Four right now if you had to choose?
Oh, man. I can do 3. I was going to say U.S., Germany, Brazil. I'm trying to think about my 4th. I could go in a couple different directions. I could go for Japan. Oh, man. That's not something I thought about super lot yet. I keep thinking that we still have like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
It's really not though. It's funny.
Going by quick. Yeah.
Well, thinking about that too, you have some connections across the pond in England, don't you? In terms of like fans and friends,
a little
bit, and not a lot, but at least a little bit. I feel like England, their women's team, has relatively good talent. And might be one of those teams that might sneak in a little bit farther than people think they might in the tournament, unless I'm wrong about that.
No, I mean they would love that. I feel like my English friends are always rooting for the national team. Mm-hmm. Kind of always come out disappointed.
Yeah, we're England fans. Wait, what? Oh yeah, totally. Oh, okay, sure.
No, the joke is that we root for England because we hate ourselves or something like that. So.
Wow, fair enough. I mean, if seeing their success in the last few World Cups in terms of the men, I can understand. That's why I think a lot of people come out for the Women's World Cup because they're like, we have a chance. Like, for real, though. Like, well, that's true, but...
Yeah, I know.
So, real quickly before we let you go, Sonia, Australia and Sweden will more than likely advance as well. The final grouping is still trying to be figured out since there's still a few games to be played. Are you surprised at how Group D finished out for the U.S. and everybody else in there, or did it kind of end up the way you thought it would?
Oh, well, at first I was kind of thinking that Sweden was going to push through, but after that first USA-Australia game, I think my vote was going for Australia to advance.
They seem to have a very talented squad this year.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, any surprise teams for you, Sonia? Because I have mine, but I'd like to hear from you.
Ooh, man. Any surprise teams? Well, let's see. I haven't been watching
Good, bad, or
as
otherwise.
much. Oh man. I mean, I'm kind of excited for Cameroon. The Cameroon.
Yes, that was it. The Cameroon is the team that I would pick as a bit of a surprise team. And again, it's probably because they're from Africa. They don't get as much coverage as the other American and European teams. But for the fact that they finished second in a group, I mean, granted, Ecuador was kind of a bye for everybody almost.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Cameroon finished as second, and they're playing China, so that'll be a decent game in the knockout stages.
And the USA, whoever they play, will play the winner of that game.
Right.
Right.
Excuse me.
And then as I'm looking at the bracket here, it's wonderful that the U.S. will have to go through Germany if USA is lucky enough to win and Germany wins all of their games too, that they'll have to take each other on in the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this, the Final Four could really be some spectacular games or some incredibly boring games.
Yes.
We have a possibility of a USA-Germany matchup, and then a possibility of Brazil's or Japan taking on Norway or Canada. So that's a juicy, if all those teams make it through, that is and it just goes to show how the women's game has grown, though.
Yes. I completely agree. And I think Norway is kind of that fifth or sixth team right now that's just, you're not exactly sure how good they are, but they've kind of stuck their nose out there and said, hey, we're actually a decent squad. Give us a little bit of credit. So I feel like if Australia goes and beats Brazil in the first knockout round, I would be more than happy to push a few of my chips towards Australia and say, hey, you might be that dark horse team this year that surprises a lot of people.
Well, I'll tell you what, Norway's been looking good. I mean, they drew 1-1 with Germany,
which is not an easy thing to do.
No. So I'm keeping my eyes on them. I think Cameroon and Norway are really and I'd hate to call Norway a surprise team. They traditionally have had a good women's program, and I mean, for the first couple of World Cups, it was them and the U.S. that were battling it out. But it's exciting to see them back in the form that they're in.
Certainly. Well, Sonia, real fast before we let you go, switching soccer genres, as it were, you were at the New York Red Bulls Atlanta Silverbacks U.S. Open Cup game last night.
Right. I had one eye on Women's World Cup. We had a TV in outside of the press box on the USA Nigeria game. In the press workroom, we had Sweden, Australia on, and then we were also streaming other Open Cup games.
Holy cow!
The Open Cup, it was insane. And then I got home, I got back to where I'm staying, and I was streaming more Open Cup games. The Clint Dempsey red card, the penalty kicks out in California. It got crazy last night.
No kidding. Well, you and I were chatting last night, just real quickly, about the lack of attendance at the Red Bulls game. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's a night with so many different soccer events going on, and also the weather was not the best. It was raining, and so that might have kept a lot of people from coming out. But I think a lot of the attention is on USA. There's so many viewing parties going on. Everybody wants to be outside or like in a restaurant drinking with their friends, hanging out. They're showing it on big screens, streaming it everywhere, and I think that is kind of taking the focus right now.
Fair enough. All right, Simon, any questions for Sonia before we let her go?
No.
No? You're good to go? Okay, he thought about it. He's like, no. All right, well, Sonia, thank you so much for stopping by. Sonia Konyotenko is the social media manager for Howler Magazine and a photographer for the, where are you? Baltimore. That's right, Baltimore Bohemians. Yeah. I couldn't think of it. Baltimore Bohemians. Sonia, where can everybody find you on social media?
I am at Sonia Karate on all social media, SONYAKARATE. So you can come follow me there.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Sonia, thanks again for stopping by, and I'm sure we'll be chatting with you again in the future.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks, Sonia.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, speaking of the Open Cup, that's I can't remember the last time that every MLS team that played against a lower division club won. So they went 8 for 8 last night. And then, of course, you figure in the Seattle-Portland game, which Portland won.
Yeah, well, they went 8 for 8 last night. But looking at this, though, Sporting Kansas City lost their game, and the Chicago Fire lost their game.
No, Sporting and Fire both won.
Well, then maybe this is the thing I'm looking at is not completely.
Let me see what you're looking at here, Baxter.
Come look at what I'm looking at. I don't know. Bring your headset over here. See, look, Sporting Kansas City lost, unless these are typos. Or maybe that's what the score was. What was the final score for those games? Because maybe these were final.
You know what's funny? I'm on the exact same site looking at the results.
Oh, this is
page.
awkward. And I just refreshed the page, too, and nothing changed.
All right, well, we'll come back and revisit the Open Cup.
That's awkward. Anyway, well, we're going to look at the Copa America real fast. Another tournament that is, I feel like if it wasn't Women's World Cup time right now, people would be probably paying a little bit more attention to this because you've got a lot of the club European stars are playing right now. You've got Messi, you've got Arturo Vidal, you've got a lot of these big guys.
Which is interesting because traditionally this tournament, it's interesting because while it is the big tournament for South America, it tends to be almost more of a mix of a senior/U23 tournament.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with some of the teams here. There's only 12 teams in the tournament. Looking at the groups really fast, Chile is on top of Group A with 4 points, with Bolivia, surprise, Bolivia on second place with 4 points as well. And then sitting in third place, you have Mexico and with 2 points and Ecuador with 0 points. Now, the Chile-Mexico game was an absolute thriller. They went 3-3. Some of the best soccer that the Mexican team has played in a long time. Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of coaches were saying. That's what a lot of inside analysts on Copa America were saying. Yet Mexico, though, in jeopardy of not even qualifying for the knockout round. Now, like you said, this is a mixture of senior team and U23, but Mexico's got most of their big guys on this team, Simon. I'm a little shocked, first of all, that Bolivia is even in second place, but if Mexico doesn't go through, is that going to kind of be just another slap in the face for the organization saying, look, you guys just aren't that good?
You know, Mexico's been having a rough run of events recently, even with their youth teams. I mean, their U20s at the World Cup took last place in their group, didn't move on. And meanwhile, you got the U.S. doing quite well, making it to the quarterfinals of that tournament. You got the U23s for the U.S. finishing third at the very prestigious Toulon tournament. But the Mexican teams have just not been playing well. I think their senior team, you're down in Copa America. Their coach is insistent that this is their team right now. But yeah, I think it's exactly what it is, Baxter, is a slap in the face to them.
Yeah, and just Mexico as a whole, obviously as a U.S. soccer fan, I'm trying to stay as unbiased as possible, but nothing makes me more happy than the Mexican national team organization's just crashing and burning right now. But I'm trying to be unbiased at the moment because this is a general show. I'm not trying to choose too many sides. Obviously, we're U.S. fans, but I'm trying not to just make this a bash Mexico. We could do that, a whole nother show. Looking at Group B, Argentina and Paraguay both have 4 points in first and second place, respectively. Argentina getting a big win against Uruguay last night. Only a 1-0 victory, though, in that game. Uruguay in third place with 3 points, so they could still go through depending on how the last game works out for them. And then Jamaica with 0 points.
But they've actually been showing well. Jamaica has. They've lost both their games only 1-0, and one of those came off of an own goal.
Oh.
So I was expecting Jamaica to go down there and, quite frankly, just get trashed.
Yeah.
But they've been holding their own. They had an opportunity to get a point there, maybe 3. I'm not saying that they're going down and controlling games, but they've been showing better than most people.
Indeed. Now, Jamaica takes on Argentina in their last game. Uruguay, Paraguay. That's a fun thing to say. Uruguay and Paraguay will take each other on for more than likely that second spot in the group. Because even if Argentina loses, or even draws to Jamaica, they're still through no matter what. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a big... No, I guess that wouldn't make sense. Just kidding. I was trying to think of something else, but that doesn't make sense. So never mind.
You were doing that thinking thing.
I was.
Again.
That's. I'm not. They don't pay me to think, Simon. Gosh. And then looking at Group C, they've all only played one game in theirs, but their second round of competition will be happening tonight. Brazil, Colombia will take on each other this evening. And then tomorrow will be Peru and Venezuela. Brazil and Venezuela both with 3 points atop of the group. Peru and Colombia behind.
I think that's a surprise there that Venezuela actually beat Colombia 1-0.
Now, I haven't looked. Is James Rodriguez on Colombia?
I haven't looked either.
I'm gonna have to.
I
look.
admit, I've been watching so much Women's World Cup.
Oh,
and,
I agree. I'm gonna see if I can find it while we.
All right.
Let's see here. Midfielders. They have James Rodriguez, Valencia, Cuadrado is there, Falcao is there. Wow, Martinez is there. Zapata, Frank. Yeah, they've got most of their big names are there. Huh. Well, that's a bit surprising. It's only been one game.
Right.
It's only been, as it was 1-0 loss to Colombia, but now they play Brazil, and they play Peru, and Peru gave Brazil a run for their money.
They did.
And I was a bit surprised by that. And there was, I don't know if you saw the highlights circulating around the internet right now of Neymar basically embarrassing several Peru defenders within about 7 seconds. And then the Peru defender is just like, enough, and just kind of grabs him and throws him to the ground. I'm like, you've been beat, win. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I was laughing, but that's such a Neymar thing to do. He's like, you want the ball? Oh, it's over here. Oh, no, it's back over here. Oh, and the guy's like, enough, get down. I'm so tired of this. But anyway, Copa America, though, hopefully it'll get a little bit more press as the knockout stage comes around, but that'll be in the next week or so.
Well, part of it's tough is that South America is such a small confederation.
Yes.
They only have their 10 teams in that.
They've got a good 10 teams.
They do. But I think part of it is, then they have their 2 teams that they invite every year. And
yes.
And Mexico tends to be one of those teams, and then it's some other CONCACAF team or Asian team. But I think that's part of it. Is just by the size of it, it's smaller.
Yes.
So people just don't pay as much attention to it.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of not being paid attention to, Simon, the FIFA U20 World Cups in New Zealand is going on right now. The finals will be played in just 3 short days. It'll be Brazil versus Serbia, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, Serbia. Brazil,
actually,
Serbia.
I watched some of the Brazil-Senegal game last night.
And I was surprised to see
half.
that Senegal was in the semifinals. So that's got to be... It's interesting to see some of these teams, because as I'm looking at the groups, you look at some of these teams and you're like, wow, these youth programs must be doing well. And then you look at some of the senior teams and you're like, well, they're still struggling.
It's interesting. It's, Tab Ramos, after the U.S.'s loss to Serbia in a shootout in the quarterfinals, which... Oh, that was heartbreaking because they were actually up in the shootout. The U.S. was actually up in the shootout. Then they had 2 misses in a row. Well, one saved by their keeper and then a miss. So they end up losing in the quarterfinals. Otherwise, hey, we may have seen the U.S. in the final.
How special would that would have been?
But even Tab Ramos says it's still at this age. Yes, you still want to win the U20 World Cup, but it still is about the development of the players. But hey, I don't think anybody's going to sneeze their nose at winning a U20 World Cup.
No. I mean, a World Cup is a World Cup. The fact that it has FIFA World Cup attached to whatever it is,
right?
Whether it's the senior teams or it's the U20s, it's still an incredible opportunity for the players to represent your country on a lower scale, even still. But the U.S. definitely showing, their best that they could. Yes, they did get, I think, aside from losing in the knockout rounds, they did lose 3-0 to Ukraine. So I think that was a bit disheartening.
And that was a bit of a surprise because they were playing some really good soccer. And I will say this much. I've been really concerned, and I think a lot of the U.S. fans would say this, I've been really concerned with our youth teams.
Especially the U.S. Yeah.
But I think this World Cup has shown that there is hope. I've been wondering where that next goalkeeper comes from. I have not been a big believer in Bill Hamid. I've not been a big believer in Sean Johnson.
No.
But Zach Steffen, he played lights-out football as a goalkeeper in this. Yeah, you had that 3-0 loss to Ukraine, but that game against Serbia, he was a mini Tim Howard.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope. Zelelim from Arsenal has lived up to his reputation in this tournament. He didn't pull a Freddie Adu. Heinemann, who plays, he was with Derby County. I'm not sure if he's still there. But, man, he's the captain of the team, and he showed well.
He did. He scored really twice during the tournament. And then you had Ruben as well with 2 goals as well.
Yeah, Rubio Ruben. So these players, it's been the opposite of what usually tends to happen is these players get hyped up, they go to these tournaments and just fall apart. But this was a great showing by a young U.S. team that I'm really hoping we see some fruition come to the senior team from these guys.
I would agree.
It's always the scary thing of you get these youth programs that do great, but it doesn't translate. I mean, Mexico is a great example.
Yes.
They win the U17 World Cup, they win gold at the Olympics, and now their senior team is just not doing well.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And just as a side note for U.S. fans, I think it's funny. There's another guy in the system now with the last name Donovan.
Oh, is that right? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
Connor Donovan. He
Oh,
is,
right, yes, yeah.
He is number 16 for the team. He's 19 years old. He's a defender for Orlando City. So it'd be funny to see another Donovan on the U.S. team.
As long as Klinsmann's coaching, we know he won't get called up.
Exactly. Exactly. So we might have to wait like another 3 or 4 years. But another interesting thing for the Galaxy, Bradford Jamieson IV. He's been having some good success in the league, and then he goes to the U20s and he scores a goal.
Yeah, but
so
he got injured.
He did. He's only 18, thankfully, so he's got a lot of time ahead of him. But that injury, I'm sure, will cause some concern for the Galaxy in terms of their forwards because they've got Robbie Keane, they've got Gyasi Zardes, who's now becoming a focal point of the men's national team, the senior one for the U.S. It's almost like the Galaxy are kind of becoming their own forward factory for the U.S. and just for MLS as a whole.
Right, and they have been doing well through the stretch of this MLS season, and this is always the toughest part of the season where you've got all these different players being called up for all these different tournaments. But we may see a day where they become their own worst enemy, the Galaxy, with the way they do develop forwards. There may come a point where they're relying on their fourth and fifth stringers, pulling guys up from LA Galaxy DOS.
Exactly, which they've had some good success with that. So that's the thing. That's the weird thing with the Galaxy is that no matter where they really seem to go, they kind of always have a forward or two around. So any final thoughts about the U20 World Cup before we go to break?
Well, I think we're seeing perhaps the second coming of Brazil. As much as I was talking about, we don't always see the youth translates to the senior team. Brazil just destroyed Senegal. I'll admit I didn't watch the second half because I didn't need to. I watched the first half last night. Senegal, they had a few chances on goal, but Brazil, just every counterattack ability that they had, they went after it. They were slicing and dicing that team.
Yes.
And if this is a Brazil team of the future, watch out, world.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's never really seems to be a bad moment for Brazil, and if they continue to keep growing like this, it's going to be scary for the future.
And plenty of singular names again. So,
wow. Makes it easy for the announcers.
That's
I'm just saying, it's like Joe and Pato. It's like, perfect.
I still loved it when Fred first came on the scene.
I was like, Fred? Who's Fred? I don't know. Well, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to be looking back at the week that was in MLS and also some crazy chaos in the U.S. Open Cup as well. Get your red cards out, folks, but they might get torn in half by Clint Dempsey. We'll talk about that and so much more when we come back. This is Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, we've had a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We were chatting about the Women's World Cup with social media manager of Howler Magazine, Sonia Kondratenko, in our last segment. We chatted a little bit about the Copa America and then the future of men's soccer with the World Cup of the U20s, wrapping up shortly as Germany will take on Serbia Brazil will take on Serbia. I don't know. I'm thinking of superpowered teams, and I just mix them together. So now looking domestically, talking about Major League Soccer. For those Major League Soccer people listening, you're probably like, finally, it's about time you talk about something. But no, not a lot happening in Major League Soccer this last weekend.
No, thankfully the league is finally starting to work out when's the best time to try to take some breaks here.
Exactly.
And it makes sense. Again, we were talking about LA Galaxy losing so many players. It's not fair to them to be playing games when half of their starting lineup is out. And
Exactly.
that goes for any other team like
Yeah.
that.
Nope, absolutely agree. Well, looking, I want us to go back all the way to last Wednesday when the United States men's national team defeated Germany. 2-1 in Germany. Bobby Wood scoring his second game-winning goal in a row. If people didn't know who Bobby Wood was before this, they certainly are going to know his name now.
So much so that he is guaranteed to play in the Bundesliga. Stuttgart bought his contract out.
Interesting.
Because the team he was with had just stayed in, I don't know how to say two in German, but the second Bundesliga.
Okay. Bundesliga. No, that's French.
That's French. Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever the case may be, Bobby Wood, because of those 2 goals, Stuttgart signed him.
They're like,
So-
you can score.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And that's interesting because Bobby Wood has been that player where you're not exactly sure how good he is because he's had injuries. He's had an interesting story.
Number of injuries,
The,
right.
USsoccer.com was running a special on Bobby Wood. They had some articles and different feature things about him. And being able to see what he's come through and what he's had to go through to get to this point was remarkable. So
Yeah, he has not played much soccer really
No.
over the last 2 years.
he's been that name if you're a really heavy follower of the team, you're like, oh, Bobby Wood. Okay, I know the name. I know he's a forward. I know he doesn't play much. I know he doesn't really score much, but I know of Bobby Wood. And
Right.
then you see him score in back-to-back games, and for me, Bobby Wood's performance and Gyasi Zardes' performance the last few games have been remarkable. Honestly, because they are proving that the U.S. does have options outside of Josie Altidore and Clint Dempsey.
And I would also say I think Mix Diskerud, he's had a lot of dissenters these last few weeks because
He
of
has.
his play with New York City, but I also think he proved a few doubters wrong as well the way
Yes.
he played in these games. Michael Bradley really adapted well. He's really playing more of the team's primary creator on the ball, and I thought he did quite well with these
I
games
agree.
as well.
And I think it's interesting that he is one of the more experienced players on the roster for these last 2 games, but I think it's good because it's giving not only the younger players an opportunity to play with one of the better midfielders in the world. I won't say he's the best because he's not, but he's I'd say probably top 10, top 15 in terms of center mid attacking midders.
Sure.
But it's giving Bradley a chance to also work and make himself a better player by having to work with the players around him in terms of the younger, less experienced guys. And I think in turn that makes everybody around better because his skills are wearing off on the younger players, and the younger players are getting to learn from a true veteran, a 2-time World Cup veteran.
And I'll tell you what, that was exemplified no better than their game-tying goal against Germany. They had 30 consecutive passes before they scored that goal.
Which
and
a lot of that went through Bradley.
Bradley and Disc.
Yep.
That's or Mix rather.
Mixed disc.
Mixed Disc. Hey, it works either way.
Mixed tape, mixed disc.
But it goes back to what you're saying. You have these younger guys, and for these younger guys to come in and beat these teams, the Netherlands and Germany. Okay, you can sit there and say that Germany didn't have its full squad. Listen, they had 13 players on that squad that won the World Cup.
They had plenty of talent on that team.
Right.
Honestly. Yeah, sure, Manuel Neuer wasn't in goal, but they still had a lot of talent on that team.
And it's still Germany.
Exactly.
I
would take Germany. I would almost put money on Germany's U20s against the U.S. national team just
Sure.
because it's Germany.
It's Germany. And they have perfected the youth academies. They have perfected how to make things transition from one level to the next. This is an exciting time for these young players to go to the Netherlands, to go to Germany, and get these wins. I mean, talk about really helping you believe that you can do this. I'm excited to see what happens in 2018, no matter where the World Cup ends up being played. By the way.
Yeah, which has yet to be determined whether or not. Maybe should do it in the U.S. Why not? The U.S. and England, I feel like they have the most soccer-specific stadiums.
I'd still like to see Australia get in there.
That would be cool, actually.
I think that would help
Travel-wise,
their
that would suck, but that would be cool.
game. Right.
So we couldn't go to that. We couldn't go to the World Cup.
Right.
So I'm hoping it should be in the U.S. But so the weekend review, obviously the U.S. wins 2-1. But then there were only 5 MLS games that took place. On Saturday, June 13th, there were 4 games. June 13th. New York City FC getting a 3-1 victory over Montreal.
Second win in a row.
Second win in a row. David Villa and company are looking to be very dangerous, Simon.
Yeah, I wonder if Jason Kreis has finally figured it out, because he admitted that he forgot how tough MLS is. He forgot how tough it is to start with a new team.
Yep.
And here you are now, New York City. Granted, it is Montreal. They're the team we thought they were so far. They have not been
in all
playing
honesty.
well. But still, for a team that was struggling to find a win after, 11, 12 games, to put 2 back-to-back.
That's huge.
That is huge. And David Villa, was he Player of the Week 2 times
he
in
was.
a row?
He was this week, and then I think he was earlier in the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I know it's big. New York City obviously still sitting at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, but they do have 14 points, and a win would catapult them into about 5th or 6th place if they were to win this coming week. Also looking at it, the New England Revolution getting a 2-0 victory against the Chicago Fire, a much-needed win for the Revolution. They've been struggling severely the last few weeks, and it was nice to see Charlie Davies and Diego Fagundes, especially with his cannon of a volley in the top of the box. But just Fagundes has not had a lot of success scoring recently, so having him get on the score sheet was crucial, I think, for his confidence and then for the Revolution to get back on track.
And again, it's no surprise that their play started to go down after Jones got re-injured.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You see when Jones is on the field, you see the impact he has for the team, and then as soon as he's off the field, people are like, oh, wait, how do we play soccer again? It's very true. It's sad, but it's true, and that's why I'm hoping that people like Lee Nguyen can realize that they need to be a leader on this team and set the example and set the standard high.
Well, and this is an opportunity to step up and do just that. Lee Nguyen wants more money. This is where you show that you deserve more money.
Exactly. And we have not seen the same MVP caliber performance this season yet that we saw from him last year.
Correct.
Looking at the other games, Seattle goes 3-0 against FC Dallas. Now, if this was earlier in the season, I think we'd be a little bit more shocked by it. But because FC Dallas has been so wishy-washy recently.
Yeah, their last win came May 9th.
Yeah.
That was June 13th with the scores that we're looking at.
Yeah,
it's getting rough there for Dallas.
I agree, and it was a good boost of confidence for Seattle as they're now sitting on top of the Western Conference standings. And then you had Columbus and the Galaxy tie 1-1. We still don't really know about this Galaxy team.
No, we don't, but I will tell you this was a big game for the Crew. They were down 1-0. Came back and tied it. This is Greg Berhalter had said this is one of the few times where you're happy with a point at home. And actually Bruce Arena, one of the guys that tends to not hold back anything, he was actually very cordial as well with this, saying that his team probably deserved just that point as well.
Yeah. And you can look at it from a lot of different angles in terms of the Crew's development, as they now sit in 6th place in the Eastern Conference standings, and so do the Galaxy over in the West. So confidence booster for the Crew, and maybe a little demoralizing for the Galaxy. I'm really curious to know, once Steven Gerrard shows up, once they kind of get the whole gang back together consistently for a good period of time, how good the LA Galaxy actually are.
And it goes back again to what I was saying as far as this point of the season is always a tough point for MLS teams. This is where the lack of depth really starts to shine in this league. Hopefully that salary cap gets bumped up after the next collective bargaining agreement, and we don't have to be so concerned about that depth. But the Galaxy, we always see in September and October, that's when they really put things together, or even as early as August.
Yes, and that's why I feel like once they get Steven Gerrard, once they get all of their players, enough with all these tournaments, enough with all this outside distraction, international friendlies, put the Galaxy players together for a month and just watch them go. Because if you look, I know games aren't won on paper, but if you look at the Galaxy roster, when healthy, they're scary. They're very, very scary. So I'm eager to see how good the Galaxy are, in all honesty, when it comes, like you said, August, September time. And then the last game that happened June 14th, Orlando, surprising everybody, maybe, kind of. It was a penalty kick goal.
And it was a bit of a controversy, from what I understand.
Take it for what it is, but Kaká scoring the goal, as he does so valiantly for Orlando City, giving them the 1-0 victory over DC United. DC United still in first place in the Eastern Conference.
Not for long, I will tell you that.
Not because of New England Revolution's top play, let me tell you that. They are sitting in second place, but barely.
But you look at Toronto. They've only played 12 games. They're on 19 points. So they have 5 games in hand.
Yeah. They've got a lot of ground to make up, but they've got the right start to do it.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that
And
could work out well
you
for
know,
them.
you had predicted a lot earlier in our first shows
Yes.
that Toronto's going to sneak into the playoffs. I think we're going to actually see them not sneak into the playoffs. They're going to be a raging bowl
Yeah.
when they get to when it comes to playoff time.
I agree. Remember I said that Orlando and Toronto would make the playoffs, and I don't think NYCFC will make it. But
That's right.
we'll see. I'm curious. I'm really curious to know how Frank Lampard does. I'm really curious if all these random rumors of Andrea Pirlo coming to NYCFC actually happen.
Which he's rebuffed, but you
Yeah.
know, the players and clubs do that all the time, and next thing you know, they're
Exactly.
playing.
And, Drogba's been scheduled to come to the Red Bulls for the last 5 years,
Right.
for God's sakes.
Right.
Like, until he's on the field, I won't say a word about it.
Right.
But just think about that for a second. If Lampard, Pirlo, Villa, and Mix Diskerud, all 4 of those guys on the same field at the same time for the same team, that could cause a lot of dynamic play for NYCFC.
Of course. And I want to go back to this Orlando game for a bit. You know, one thing that was good for Orlando, and this is the last time these teams played down at the Citrus Bowl, is DC's had that 91st minute winner, if you remember.
That
So this
dagger
was
in the heart in like the 93rd minute or something like
right,
that.
right. And it was a beautiful goal. So this goal obviously wasn't as beautiful, but this was a bit of a revenge for
Yes.
Orlando.
And Hamid saved the first shot, but Kaká got the rebound
That's
and headed
right.
it in.
That's right.
So I feel like when goals like that are scored, I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, it's what you're taught to do is follow it up and,
Yep.
and score, but you
But
have
I'll-
to commend Hamid for the save.
But I'll tell you what, Orlando now is on a 5-game unbeaten streak,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 of those have been wins. So for an expansion team to be doing this this part in the season, that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. And I'm a big rumors fan. I love big transfer rumors.
Of course.
There are vague rumors that Lucas Podolski and
Right.
vague rumors that Luis Fabiano might be coming over. Vague, very vague rumors.
I'm going to say right now, I completely doubt the Podolski. You
don't think so?
He came out this week just talking about how he needs more playing time at his club,
Hmm.
and he wants to stick it out.
Sure.
So
Where is he at again? He's not at Arsenal anymore.
he is, isn't he?
Is he at Arsenal?
I thought it was
still?
Arsenal. I'm pretty sure
I thought
he
he
is.
had left, but maybe that sounds right, but I wasn't sure. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of materializes from that. So now looking ahead to the domestic tournament that involves many a league within the United States, the U.S. Open Cup, or the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Some scores from last night, Simon, and
Yeah, we've clarified.
What'd you see?
We've clarified
Yeah,
that all
I
8
don't know
MLS
why.
teams that were playing lower division clubs did win.
Yeah.
And as I said, I believe that's a first. I don't remember that happening since MLS has
There
entered
was
this
usually
tournament.
that one team, and there were a few opportunities for that to happen last
Yeah, a
night.
few PKs, a few games that went to PKs. Oh, I just lost my,
Oh,
my
no.
page here.
Well, Philly and Rochester went to PKs last night. They were 0-0 after extra time and everything. And then the Philadelphia Union, surprise, surprise, actually won a game.
Yeah. Well, they've been
They
playing
have.
better than
Yeah,
they had been at the
I
beginning
know.
of the season. But
I know. I'm trying to grit my teeth.
But
and
the
say
Chicago
that.
Fire game, they go into extra time. They happen to win off of a bit of a fluke goal against Louisville City. Everything that I saw and read was that Louisville actually had that game.
Yeah.
Very small crowd again at Toyota Park. That's the one aggravating thing to me with this. I know in the FA Cup when these smaller teams play,
Yeah.
you're going to have your smaller attendance.
Yes.
But I feel like when the Premier League teams are playing at home, they still get good crowds.
Yeah.
This is such a historical tournament. A CONCACAF Champions League spot is always on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see more fans get behind this, and it frustrates me to no end that teams don't. And for once, I have to say, it looks like the MLS clubs, every single one of them, for the most part, are taking this tournament seriously.
Which is nice. And honestly, I mean, it does make some questions, though, too. And I don't know how full strength some of these teams were, like Chicago or Sporting Kansas City, but they were playing possible new teams.
Right.
Louisville
Right.
wants a team. St. Louis wants a team. And then Sacramento wants a team as well. And all 3 of them lost last night.
I other than it being in California, I still don't get how Sacramento doesn't have a team yet. That can be for a whole nother show.
Exactly.
As far as MLS team, I should say.
Yes. Now there were some big victories. FC Dallas went 4-1 on the OKC Energy. Colorado beating Colorado Springs 4-1 as well. And then Simon, it was a good night to be a Portland Timbers fan last night. Why was that?
Well, They not only took down their arch rival, the Seattle Sounders, 3-1.
Yes.
And let me just throw in there that Seattle actually lost twice last night.
Oh, did they?
Because S2 also lost. Who was that to?
Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, Real Salt Lake. So Sounders actually have 2 of their teams lose last night. And I'm sorry if you're a Timbers fan, you have to enjoy that.
You
especially
do.
when
I
one
would.
of those is the Timbers taking down Seattle Sounders.
A 7-man Seattle Sounders. Now, talk a little bit about the controversy, the issue, the ripping up of the ref's book. What happened to the Sounders?
So full disclosure, the ref was horrible last night.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. The red cards that he started giving out, a couple of them were questionable. But Clint Dempsey, you are the captain of the U.S. team. I don't care where you're playing. You are still representing the U.S. as its captain. So he got so angry last night. He gets a yellow card for dissent.
Yes, because he was questioning a foul that happened to a teammate.
Well, yeah, and it was a red card that was given, and that was a very questionable red card. Apparently,
it was a straight red, wasn't it?
It was a straight red, and I was reading some more reports today that it wasn't necessarily for an elbow, which everybody thought it was for. It was for a stomp. Honestly, I didn't see either. It looked like a fair play to me.
Sure.
It was a total mysterious red card. So Sounders fans, I'm being objective there.
Yes.
That shouldn't have been a red. But Clint Dempsey then goes up to the ref, does his thing of yelling in the ref's face. Ref gives him a yellow. Dempsey takes the ref's notebook, throws it on the ground, then decides to pick it up and rips it, tears it in half. So then he gets, deservedly so, a red card.
You don't do that to
Right.
a referee. I don't care how mad you are. Walk away. Go swear into your jersey. If you absolutely need to let some steam off, walk away though. You don't.
And
You don't grab the. If you touch the ref, first of all, you're going to get an issue. But if you take the ref's book and rip it in half, come on. What kind of an example does that set for the U.S. Soccer Federation? What example does that set for the Sounders organization?
Well, and here's the thing. I was reading an article on Business Insider, why this was on Business Insider, I'm not sure.
Not
but
my first place for
it just
soccer
goes to
info.
show the growth of the game.
Yes.
But U.S. Soccer could potentially suspend him from all activity for 3 months.
For 3 months. They should. That was, maybe, I don't know for 3 months, but they should give him some sort of suspension.
Well, here's the thing. The U.S. team went out and beat the Netherlands. They beat
Without
Germany.
him. They don't need him. They don't need
So-
him. He's washed up.
So what happens with the Gold Cup?
Yes.
All I'm saying is stay classy.
Put in Giassi's artist. That's
and
what
then,
need
you
to do.
had some Sounders fans throwing bottles and beer and whatnot at Timbers
Well,
players.
you knew that was going to be the case. When you get a rivalry team, you get a rivalry game in a smaller venue setting,
Right.
tensions are going to get way higher, and things are going to get messed up quickly. And when it doesn't go the way, because Seattle was the host team, weren't they?
They were.
So
yeah.
it was a
It's
smaller.
At the Starfire Complex, which
Yes.
seats like 4,300 people.
Yeah. So you put all those people in that tight of an area, and things get as hot as they were last night. Anything's possible.
Yeah, but again, you don't start throwing stuff. It wasn't
No.
the players doing it.
I don't
it was
ever
the
think
ref.
you should throw
Yeah,
anything
right.
at the field.
And I know I did read reports too of the Sounders fans policing themselves, telling those people to stop, which is
Yeah.
great to see. And Sounders fans had all right in the world to boo the ref, but I do get a little tired that it seems the only time the Sounders lose is when there's a bad ref in the middle. At least according to their fans and coach. Again, then there's Caleb Porter.
I get it. Too funny. Well, looking ahead to some of the U.S. Open Cup games tonight, you've got the Richmond Kickers taking on Columbus Crew. Pittsburgh, I don't know what they're...
The Riverhounds.
Riverhounds, okay.
Yeah,
I know it's a dog.
They actually have a pretty cool little stadium,
Do
by
they?
the way, right on the river.
Oh, I'd assume so.
Hope to get out there someday to see it. But
There you
yeah,
go.
they're taking on DC United.
Yep.
And then this is the fun one.
Yeah,
NYCFC taking on the Cosmos of the NASL.
that's awesome.
You gotta if you're an NASL fan, you gotta hope that the Cosmos pull this off because you do not have. Are there any other NASL clubs alive? I don't believe so.
The Charlotte Independence one? Or the Charleston Battery?
Nope. USL.
Oh.
So that is. I mean, the USL completely dominated the NASL in this competition, and the USL is going to be applying for Division II status again.
I hope so. Division 2 in terms of MLS and then USL?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
and then NSL would get kicked down to the third?
Or once again, I don't know if you recall this, Baxter, and this is me being the stat guy and following every
Yes.
little detail of U.S. soccer, but there was a huge this was back in 2007, 2008, where the NASL and USL were duking it out. They were suing each other because some clubs left USL to form the NASL. So they were both applying for Division II, and the USSF actually just said, you know what? We're going to have a USSF Division II. That's what it's going to be called. Because the NASL didn't have enough teams to be Division II, and the USL didn't meet the requirements to be Division II. It was a huge mess.
Well, it would make sense for the USL to be number 2 because they've got a lot of the academy team or the second teams.
Yeah, the reserve teams basically for MLS.
So why
right.
not?
It does on the surface it makes sense, but then you do have to look at the finances.
Yeah.
Which has to be part of the qualifying process.
Yep.
Because you need these teams to survive. If they don't survive, you're not going to have any.
Yeah.
You're just going to end up with a reserve league again.
As much as you can have the love of the game carry you, it does come down to money.
It does. It does.
Which is unfortunate, but that's how the world works, especially when it comes to sports.
Right. So, anyways, back to the other games on the docket.
Soccer. Whoops. So the Charleston Battery will take on Orlando City SC tonight. Both New York City FC and Orlando City SC playing in their first ever
That's right.
U.S. Open Cup game. So we'll see if a bit of history is made, either in a positive or negative way for those teams. My New England Revolution take on the Charlotte Independence this evening. So I'll be curious to see how the Revolution react to that and who they send to play in that game. Houston Dynamo taking on the Austin Aztecs.
I'm calling the upset right there.
You think so?
Yeah,
huh?
it's the Aztecs. Yeah,
Aztecs.
with an X there. I do. I
see what they did there.
They're playing at home, but it's been. I don't know. Houston just tends to have a weird season. Owen Coyle, this is his first time. He's the manager of Houston. This will be his first time in the Open Cup. So I do wonder if his FA Cup experience will play into this. But Austin's been a decent team, and I'm just going to go be bold there and call that upset.
Interesting. All right. And then the last game will be the LA Galaxy versus PSA Elite. Really not too concerned about that game, honestly.
No, but that's the last amateur club in the tournament, the PSA Elite. They tend to do well in this tournament. They've got their big prize money of $10,000 for being the last remaining amateur club. But
good for them.
It'll be fun to see. That's at the StubHub Center.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we've got our new official power rankings for you and our predictions for the upcoming week in MLS soccer. Don't go anywhere. This is 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, it is time for our new power rankings.
It has been a while.
It has been a long time. Some changes, some surprises, some new people in the rankings. But basically, it looks like we took a bunch of MLS teams, threw them in a can, shook it up, and threw it on a board, and there they are. So,
right.
Starting on the outside looking in, Simon, who are the two teams that we have looking in?
Well, we've got the San Jose Earthquakes. They've kind of been that more consistent up and down team, if that makes sense.
Yes.
They tend to have either a draw, a win, maybe a slight loss. They're not really getting killed, but they're not also dominating in the games that they do win. So they're looking in. And the other is NYCFC. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They're looking good.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, they win this week. We'll probably see them in these rankings.
I agree, and we had talked about it before the show a little bit, if they deserve to be in the actual rankings, but it's hard for me to justify a last-place team in the Eastern Conference to be in the actual rankings.
Right.
But as you'll see as we go through this list, there's some of these teams you're just like, well, they're ranked pretty high. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel very confident with the top 6.
Okay.
And then after that, I do feel like it's almost
You could literally throw
intermingle
anybody.
these.
Throw some
Yeah.
NASL teams in
Yeah,
there.
right,
maybe.
sure.
Some
Go
USL
ahead.
teams. So number
10,
number 10.
Cosmos.
Yeah, wait, what? No, the Charlotte Independence. No.
Well, the Cosmos did win the spring season, by the
They
way.
did.
In the
I did
NSL.
see that,
Yeah.
and that was interesting. Did you see, as a side note, before we get into our power rankings, that Carmelo Anthony purchased Puerto Rico? What are they?
Puerto Rico
FC?
Islanders?
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're now part of the NASL.
Oh, is that right?
Yes,
I did not see
That
that.
just happened this last
Wow.
week. So, and
That's
Carmelo
cool.
Anthony, the New York Knicks basketball player, is now one of the owners of the team.
Wow.
So, and they're part of the NASL now. So,
Hey, that it again just goes to show the growth in the game that
Yeah.
we've got these NBA stars that
a lot
not
of them
even
like
necessarily
soccer.
looking at MLS. Now they're looking at second division
Yeah.
clubs as well. I mean that says, and they do. Last night on the Women's World Cup show, they had Reggie Bush on there talking
saw
about
that.
soccer as well.
And I was like, yeah, Reggie Bush. I liked him back in college. Not when he played for the Detroit Lions, though. Anyway, so number 10 on our power ranking, Simon, is the New England Revolution. They have been a little spotty recently, unfortunately. They've only got one win in their last 7 games.
But that win did come in their last game.
It did against the rival, Chicago Fire. If you're a true Revolution fan, you'll be like, okay, that's actually a rival.
Okay. Good. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, because of all the big playoff series in the early 2000s when Taylor Twellman was on the
Oh,
team.
sure,
It would
sure.
usually be Revolution Fire in like the conference semifinals.
That's right. Yes,
so
I do remember
they became
that.
a rival because of that. Or at least in my mind, they're a rival. I hope to other Revolution fans they're a rival too.
Yeah, so they have one win in their last 7 games here, but
Yes.
they only also have 2 losses in their last
It's a
7
good
games.
team. Sporting
So-
Kansas City, they lost 4-2 back on May 20th, and then they lost to the Timbers 2-0 on 2 80-plus minute goals.
Yeah, and I was a jerk. I sent you.
You did. No, I was fine. I knew. As soon as the game was over, I was like, how long? How long before I get the notification or from the text?
Well, that's the first time they've played since we've been doing
Yeah.
the show, so I had to.
Oh, I expect nothing
with the
less.
caveat that I'm expecting the opposite to happen when they head over to Foxborough.
That's the plan. That's the plan. So New England at 10th place in the standings. They are second in the Eastern Conference with 24 points, 6-4-6 record, but don't really feel like they deserve to be any higher than 10 right now, Simon.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Which also leads us to our number 9 team, which I think a lot of people will probably be upset about this, that the Eastern Conference leaders, DC United, are number 9 on our power rankings.
But they're number 9 for a reason. They had 2 wins back in week 14, week 15, but
they haven't, yeah.
they beat Philadelphia 2-1, but their last 2 games they've lost. And you
When
look
did
at
beating Philadelphia mean anything?
right,
Simon?
and the games before that they had another 2 losses. So really, out of their last 8 games, they've had 4 losses.
Yes.
and in fact, I didn't want to put them in the rankings.
You didn't.
This is the first time, Baxter, that
I know.
you thought more highly of DC than I did.
I know. It hurts. But look at it, though, too, is that DC, 3 out of their last 4 games that they've lost, they've been shut out in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they lost to Orlando City, they lost to Philly, and they lost to Portland. So, and then they drew 1-1 against the Revolution, and then they beat Philly again, and they beat the Fire, and then they lost to TFC 2-1. So, DC United, Eastern Conference leaders with 28 points, but like you mentioned in our earlier segment, for how long?
For how long,
That's
right?
the real question. So number 8 on our list is who, Simon?
Number 8 is the Houston Dynamo.
Yes, they have been seeming to really put some things together recently. They have won 3 out of their last 5
Last
games.
5, yeah. One
Only
loss.
lost 1.
Yep, and they had that draw, and we look. They beat the Red Bulls 4-2.
They beat Toronto. They beat
Yeah.
Portland.
So good teams that they're beating as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, they started the season a bit shaky, and it's not like they've coming to a smooth landing. They're still a bit up and down, but they definitely seem to be more on the up and up than other teams are.
Yes. Yep, I would have to agree with that. Number 7 on our list, Simon, is the Vancouver Whitecaps, the first of the 3 Cascadia teams. All 3 on our list in some way, shape, or form. Vancouver, the lowest of them. As we know, they had a hot start to their season, and then through the last 6 games, they've won 3 and lost 3.
Yeah, so you can't knock them completely out.
Yes.
They're still in second place in the West, and we keep talking about how strong the West is.
Mm-hmm.
So, in their last game here, too, as well, they did have a win, and we have to take that in consideration when we're looking at these, and it was against the Galaxy.
Yeah, and exactly. So I'm not sure, because Vancouver, I feel like, is young, and they've got the right team to do good in the West, but I just don't know how good Vancouver is. And then our ever-changing opinion
Right.
is the LA Galaxy. They sit at number 6 right now.
They do. Again, maybe they should be 7th and Vancouver should be 6th, since Vancouver, their last game, they beat them, because we're actually going to use that argument a little bit later here.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, Vancouver's losing, winning, losing. And the Galaxy tend to put some nice unbeaten streaks together.
Yes.
And out of their last 5, they've won 2, they've drew 2, they've only lost 1.
Yeah.
And as you talked about, this is a part of the season where they're actually missing a good deal of their players.
Yes. I'm curious to know how good of an unbeaten run they can put together come maybe week 20 or so, once they get a few more players back. Number 5 for us, this is the highest they've ever been rated on our list. The expansion team, the only expansion team to ever crack our ratings, is Orlando City. They are 5th. I think that it all kind of started to click for Orlando, Simon, when they destroyed the Galaxy 4-0.
I'll tell you what, if this was a who's the hottest team right now, you could make an argument for Orlando.
Yes, unbeaten in their last 5. They're 3 wins and 2 draws. I mean, look who they've drawn against. They've drawn San Jose 1-1. They drew Columbus 2-2. Then they go 3-2 against the Fire and 1-0 against DC United.
And again, maybe there was some controversy with that PK, but the fact of the matter is, they've been stringing a lot of games together.
Yeah.
They're looking strong.
And look who they play next. They play Montreal. They play Colorado. They play Real Salt Lake, FC Dallas, and then the Red Bulls. Those are their next 5 games. You could go 6 and say NYCFC. So I wouldn't be shocked if Orlando grabs at least maybe 3 more wins out of that. Especially if they really start putting the pieces together.
They are all winnable games.
Yes.
I think the toughest one is going to be perhaps Real Salt Lake, because they're
They're
a
just
chameleon.
physical.
Yeah,
They really
yep,
are.
Yep.
They really are. All right, number 4, Simon. You are a big advocate for this team, led by the Atomic Ant, Toronto City, or Toronto FC. Not Toronto City. I don't.
TFC for sure.
That's what I was thinking was TFC.
Yeah, Giovinco, man, he's been playing
Ant-Man.
MVP style soccer. He has been leading that team, but the entire team is just playing fantastic. This is the Toronto that we thought we would see. 3 wins in a row, a draw before that, a loss before that, and then they put 2 wins together. So ever since they got to BMO, they had that first loss to Houston, but ever since then, they've been playing the type of football that we thought we would see from them.
Kind of without Michael Bradley as well, because Bradley was gone for a few weeks with the international break.
But I actually think that was the most positive thing to happen to Giovinco, because now he had to carry the team.
Yes.
And he has been.
He has. He really has. We've seen some amazing goals from him.
And we should have seen more, because some of those shots he's putting on goal. I mean, there's been some keepers that have made some amazing saves on him.
Certainly. Absolutely. Well, looking into our top 3 now, Simon, your team, the Portland Timbers, at number 3.
Yeah, and a caveat here is I wanted them at number 5, and you were insistent that they're better than I'm thinking.
I think they are.
And I'm always more pessimistic, so I appreciate you staying strong to your argument there. But you can't argue with it.
Look at what they've done. 4 wins in the last 6 games.
Yeah, and a 3-game winning streak on top of that. And they've been beating some good teams as well. It's not like they're beating pushovers.
Not at all.
And they're playing great soccer too. I mean, they're playing very strong. They're dominating games. Adi is finding the back of the goal again. Borchers and Ridgewell, as upset as I was with them at the beginning of the season, in the back they are playing some of the best defensive soccer in this league right now.
Absolutely agree with you. Now, I will say number 2 because I know you don't like to say this word. Number 2 is the Seattle Sounders. We were kind of having a debate about if they belonged at number 1. So our number 1 is Sporting Kansas City, so we can kind of talk freely about this. We're back and forth with this because Seattle right now, they have only 1 loss in their last 6 games. They won, drew, 1-1, lost, 1.
But then Sporting Kansas City is on a 7-game unbeaten streak.
Yes.
And their last win came against who?
Seattle. Yes.
So for us, at least for me, that was my argument with you last night.
And I completely agree. Sporting's only lost 2 games all season. Seattle have lost 4 games. So in that regards, you can't deny Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, I think everybody across America, Soccer America, MLS Soccer, there's another website I was looking at, they all have Seattle at number 1. And it's hard to argue against that, but I still think this is when results do matter.
Yes.
And Sporting took care of business. They beat Seattle. And again, we talked about DC not having one second here. We talked about DC not having won since May.
Yep.
And, well, my computer's now going crazy.
What are you looking for?
I was looking to see the last time Sporting Kansas City has lost.
Last time they lost was April 18th. They lost 2-1 against the LA Galaxy.
So we're basically 2 months removed
since
from
the last time they lost a game.
You can't argue against that.
No,
you know.
And the only other loss was week 2, March 14th, 3-1 loss against FC Dallas. Back when FC Dallas was relevant.
Right. So, numbers-wise, points-wise, Sporting is only 3rd in the West. Seattle is 1st.
Yes.
But they do have a game on Seattle, yet Seattle will still, even if Sporting wins that game, it'll be 29 points to 27 points. But, as a reminder, these are the power rankings.
Yes.
This is how teams are doing right now, not necessarily how they're doing over the entire season.
Usually how we judge it is how they've done over the last 5 games.
Yeah.
That's the big factor for me when I'm looking at
Unless
my
we end up seeing a team destroy somebody 15-0. Well,
and then be like, well, they might be better.
Right.
Montreal defeats Seattle 15-3. Well, okay. I could be persuaded to put them at, 9 or 10.
Right.
All right, Simon. So one more time for the good people. Who are our new power rankings?
Yeah, so we've got the Revs at number 10. We got DC at number 9. Houston at number 8. Vancouver 7. LA Galaxy 6. They tend to float between that 4 and 7 number. Orlando at number 5. TFC, big jump up to number 4. Portland, a huge jump to number 3. Number 2, we got that other Cascadia team, and number 1 is Sporting Kansas City. We have San Jose and New York City FC, by the way, as kind of tied at number 11 there.
On the outside looking in. All right, Simon, well, time for our predictions. Starting with Colorado and FC Dallas. That game will take place on Friday night.
On Unamas in Colorado, or I should say Commerce City.
Commerce City, yes. On MLS Live as well. Who do you got in that game?
Well, Baxter, we haven't been on the show for 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Something like that. Too long, that's all I know.
A wedding gift that I know you'd completely disdain is a draw, so I'm going to pick a draw.
That means so much to me. Thank you. I'd like to assume the best of people, and I think FC Dallas will win this game. I think they need to turn themselves around, and I think Colorado's the team for them to do that against.
Sure.
That one Cascadia team versus San Jose playing. That one Cascadia team is Seattle, as they are first in the Western Conference. But San Jose, though, you have always been an advocate for San Jose.
Well, I think there's more to them than that we see, although I can't make that argument much as of late. But, boy, after that demoralizing loss in the Open Cup game, and those were 2 basically starting lineups, I'm going back and forth because we don't know if Femi Martins is going to be playing. He went off injured.
He went off on a stretcher.
He did.
That's never a good sign. And
I still haven't gotten word on what he's actually, they don't know yet. Or if it's come out, it's been during the show.
Sure.
This is a tough one for me. I'm going to let you pick first. Let me think about this just for a little longer.
This is my upset game of the week. I have San Jose winning this game.
Yeah. That's the way I'm leaning to, but let's make it interesting. I'll pick that other team.
Okay. Interesting. That other team could potentially win the game. So we'll see.
So could the other team, by the way.
Yes, that other team could beat that other team, and somebody will win the game. Maybe they'll draw. Who knows? Just to smack us in the face, they'll draw. The New York Red Bulls and Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Vancouver.
I'm picking them as well.
And that's an away match for them. So
It is.
We'll see.
I think Vancouver Red Bulls have kind of dropped recently.
Yeah,
So I think
yep.
Vancouver's got the right stuff, baby, to take it. Little reference there. I don't know. Well before my time, but even still. And then your Portland Timbers taking on the Houston Dynamo.
So-
Houston has been looking good. Timbers
Yeah.
looking good.
Timbers have been looking great. 3-game winning streak in the league, 4-game winning streak overall with
Yep.
that Open Cup win, and I think they're going to continue that. So I'm going to pick Portland.
All right. I have Portland as well, actually. Toronto FC versus New York City FC.
This has the potential to make a very good, enjoyable match.
Yes.
It's too bad it's not on one of the actual big networks for MLS, but
Right. It's on Yes Network. And
yes.
Sportsnet
Yes, it is.
360. Whatever those are. It's on them.
So we'll still be able to watch it on MLS Live.
yeah,
which is
that's
good.
what I'll be watching it on.
But I think I'm going to pick Toronto on this one.
Okay. Yep, that's who I have in that game as well. I think Toronto with Bradley back and the Atomic Ant mowing down people, I like their chances. Although David Villa will certainly put up a big fight. Montreal and Orlando in this game. Orlando, it's hard to argue against them. That's why I'm not going to.
Okay, this is going to be my upset pick, even though it's at home for Montreal. I'm still going to pick them and call it an upset.
Fair enough.
That made sense in there somewhere.
Sure. I won't question it too
Okay.
much.
Okay.
And then the LA Galaxy and Philadelphia Union.
So it's been interesting because Philly's actually been learning how to win games.
Yeah.
but
They're
they
hoping
still
they wouldn't figure that out.
lose quite a bit of them, and I think they're going to lose this one. So I'm picking LA.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that LA is starting to get their pieces back together, and once they have that together, they are next to impossible for us to stop. The featured game that is not Orlando City for once on ESPN.
It's amazing.
I am a little annoyed by that.
Not that team from Cascadia nor Orlando this week.
They're putting the Revolution on there. Why? What's wrong? Somebody must have lost a bet somewhere. DC United takes on the New England Revolution. It's good Eastern Conference soccer, first versus second.
And this is a good rivalry, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Right? This is a pretty
Yep,
heated one.
It's a pretty big rivalry. I've got New England winning this game. I think that their 2-0 victory over Chicago will be enough to propel them. And I think DC is still a little surprised that they lost to Orlando.
Yeah, and I think DC is hurting, but I'm still going to pick them for this one.
All right.
I think both teams are in a similar place. Yes, New England got
Yes,
that win, but
yeah.
they've both been a bit of a free fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you.
So I'm gonna take DC on this one.
All right. And then the final game, Sporting Kansas City against Real Salt Lake on Fox Sports 1 on Sunday evening. I've got Sporting Kansas City winning this game.
Yeah, Real Salt Lake makes these picks so difficult, don't they?
They do.
You never know what you're going to get with them.
I never know how to. They're that one team that I would probably never bet against, so thankfully I'm not putting money on it. 'Cause
There
I'd
you
probably
go.
put money on Real Salt Lake
Well,
if I had to. Of
I'm going to bookend my picks with a draw.
course you are. I expect nothing less from you. I love it. All right, well, we're going to go to one more break. When we come back, we'll have our I Believe segments and wrap things up for another edition of Two Up Front. This is Two Up Front presented by Sports Radio America. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Almost got you that time. Almost. You were doing good the whole show.
I was. I'm never quite sure if you're going to say my name along with yours or if I'm going to jump in.
You can say your name.
So, all right.
You can say. I feel like you know your name better than I do. So
Yeah.
most days.
All right.
Depending on how many papers you've had to grade and other
Right,
things of that nature. If your daughters.
Hey,
are
it's
behaving.
summertime. You don't have to bring that stuff
Oh,
up.
sorry. School? What? What's school? I don't know what school is. But anyway, Simon, it is time for our I Believe segment. All right, Simon, the way our I Believe segment works is that we will make a statement about something we believe will happen in the soccer world. Simon and I both start our segment off by saying, I believe that, da-da-da-da-da-da. So, Simon, I will let you go first this week, sir.
All right, I believe that we're going to see an almost identical championship game in the Women's World Cup to the Men's World Cup. We're going to see Germany and Brazil.
Interesting.
We're going to see a...
but will it be a 7-2 thrashing
It won't be a 7-2 thrashing. Germany's going to win the Women's World Cup again.
Interesting.
That's what I believe.
That's what you believe.
I want to believe in the U.S., and as I always say when I make things like this, I hope to be proven wrong. But for right now, that is what I believe.
All right. I believe that Abby Wambach, no matter when the U.S. decides to exit, whether it's during the tournament or as champions or loss in the final, that Abby Wambach will end up as the World Cup leading goal scorer. That is what I believe. She's a goal behind Marta right now.
You're talking about overall.
Overall, in the World
okay.
Cup. She's the most scoringest player in existence.
Yes.
She's got 183 goals. But she's at 14 goals right now. Marta for Brazil has 15. But I feel like Abby will finish the tournament ahead of Marta.
Do you have perhaps a player that'll be the Golden Boot winner? Or have you? I haven't been following enough to know, to be honest with you.
I've been following it slightly. If Germany goes, it'll be one of their players because they've had a few people pad their stats with that 10-0 game. So it'll be a German player. Megan Rapinoe is the only close one that I really know. She's got 2 goals.
And hey, Rapinoe, keep putting them in there.
Exactly.
I'm cheering for you.
We love Megan Rapinoe. All right, well, this has been another exciting edition of 2 Up Front. Simon, where can they find us on social media?
2 Up Front on Facebook and on Twitter at 2 Up Front Soccer.
Yes, indeed. And don't forget, you can listen to us right here on Sports Radio America and sportsradioamerica.com on Fridays from 3 to 6 Eastern, and also on TuneIn and Live 365. Catch our live shows sometime on Thursdays, usually, probably Thursday evenings on Spreaker.com.
And a quick note on that, Baxter. I'm in Oregon for the next 2 weeks.
Yes,
I won't
indeed.
be here, but Saturday I get to watch the Portland Timbers take on the Houston Dynamo in Portland at Providence Park.
That's exciting. I want to see lots of pictures. Make sure you check out our social media things for that. And then remember, you can download our podcast on iTunes as well. So, huge thank you to Bethany and Grace Provan for stopping by today as part of our hometown segment, and Sonia Kondratenko as well to talk about Women's World Cup. So he's Simon Provan. I am Baxter Colburn. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Yes.